Just as we have long had a strategic petroleum reserve and a stockpile of critical minerals for national defense, we're now creating this reserve for American industry, so we don't have any problems. This historic initiative will combine $10 billion in export-import bank financing with $2 billion in private sector financing, and we even expect the American taxpayer to make a profit from the interest on the loan used to start the Project Vault. We're doing that. The permitting of mines and signing major critical mineral deals with countries from all over the world, and we're getting along with all of them, every one of them.
That's President Trump launching Project Vault, a strategic reserve for our domestic rare earth minerals in an effort to reduce reliance from China. The project, headed by U.S. Export-Import Bank, with a $10 billion loan to help supply chains and store raw materials. The bank also now investing upwards of $100 billion in American energy projects across the globe to advance President Trump's agenda for global energy dominance in America. Joining me now, the man in charge of it all, U.S. Export-Import Bank President and Chairman John Jovanovic. John, great to have you. Thank you so much for being here.
Maria, it's great to be with you.
So tell us the status of where Project Vault stands right now. Obviously very important for America's independence from supply chains that we are relying on right now from China.
Well, Maria, Project Vault is a great example of a huge problem that we've been talking about for far too long. Nobody's done anything about it. President Trump is fixing the problem of bringing supply chain security to everyday Americans. So the president challenged us to do something that we've never had in American history, which is a strategic critical minerals reserve for non-military manufacturing. And we knew we needed to deliver for the president in a big way, in a way that was scalable, but also in a uniquely American way, where there were no free riders, but most importantly, Maria, that the American taxpayers weren't burdened by it.
So tell us about the specific minerals, what they're used for, John. I know that there is a dearth of certain minerals and the refining of those minerals here. So what specifically do we need, and where are they going to be used for?
Yeah. What we did was we linked Project Vault and the Strategic Critical Minerals Reserve to our U.S. geological list. And so there are 60 critical minerals identified, 17 of which are rare earth elements, and all are eligible for the vault. But I think what's most important, Maria, is that this is a uniquely American solution, right? We are not telling the market what the market needs. The market is sending us these signals because the manufacturers who are going to benefit most, they're the ones chipping in to make sure this is possible. Of course, the Export-Import Bank of the United States, we've approved our largest loan in our 92-year history. We're proud to have done so, of $10 billion. But we've also got private sector capital coming to the table. And that, I think, is what's going to make this not just scalable, but also a long-term success.
Well, you've also got companies out there really ramped up in terms of excavating and doing their own business to actually partner with the government. We spoke with the CEO of USA Rare Earths, Barbara Humpton, as well as the CEO of Antimony. Listen to these portions of these interviews, and I want to get your reaction. Watch.
These are the critical minerals that make our permanent magnets that move motors, et cetera, more powerful and performing at high temperatures. These are minerals that are needed in semiconductor production. There are oxides needed for jet engine production. These are the high-value critical minerals that complement the light rare earths, which are lower-valued critical minerals in the supply chain. And this is the key to moving us forward.
It's no different than the strategic oil reserve. I was in the oil and gas business 38 years, and we dealt with that. Every president would put oil in, take oil out. Same thing is going to exist here. I think the Exim Bank's providing $10 billion of funding, and there's some private enterprises or public companies that are going to fund the other $2 billion. We would love to continue our contract. We have a $248 million contract with the DLA as part of the DOW, and we're fulfilling that contract now. It probably needs to be $1 billion. $2 billion. Wow. And it's not just the United States, it's NATO, it's Australia, it's other countries around the world in the same position as U.S. We're not alone.
John, your reaction?
Look, Barbara and Gary are both spot on. What we're trying to do is fix a foundational issue that impacts companies large and small, and by the way, American workers every single day. And what's, I think, particularly great about it is we're trying to create an attractive alternative to the just-in-time inventory model. And you can't blame companies, right? For far too long, they were punished by shareholders and stakeholders for not embracing a just-in-time inventory model. And so that led to, as you know very well, a bunch of operational vulnerabilities. And so this is really fundamentally about de-risking our supply chains so that we could deliver on President Trump's core promise, which is to reindustrialize America for the benefit of everyday Americans.
Especially since we're not sure where China is going with this, because there was a moment there when it was basically holding back critical minerals that the U.S. needed, not just for non-manufacturing, non-military, but actually military critical minerals. Now, I want to talk about other countries that are aligning with the U.S. on this, because Japan is pledging to invest $36 billion in American oil, gas, and critical minerals projects in Texas, Ohio, Georgia. This is Japan's first batch of investments that is part of the $550 billion trade deal signed last year with President Trump. And the president celebrated on Truth Social. He wrote this: "The scale of these projects are so large and could not be done without one very special word: tariffs. America is building again, America is producing again, and America is winning again. This is a very exciting and historic time for the United States of America and Japan," writes the president. So talk to us a bit, John, about these partnerships that the president has reignited with our allies across the world, like Japan.
You know, Maria, over the course of my career, I've never seen anything like it. More importantly, over 92 years of operating history at the Export-Import Bank, we've never seen anything like it. We are inundated with requests from all around the world of people wanting to invest in America, sometimes for the first time. What the president's done is he's created this moment in time where he's rolled out a broad red carpet to everyone who wants to seriously help us reindustrialize the country for the benefit of themselves and their stakeholders and shareholders. But more importantly, that should all accrue, and it will, to Americans every day, and create more jobs here at home.
And how are we getting these rare earth minerals? Is the excavation process underway? Where does they come from in terms of putting this stockpile together, John?
What's great about the Strategic Critical Minerals Reserve is that it's going to create an opportunity to help catalyze projects all across the country and projects in which we're partnered with our key allies. And so it's really about the entire ecosystem. But you've got to start by making sure that we have these minerals available, that they're warehoused and stored across the country, and that they're available to countries and companies large and small when they need it most.
Well, the president talked about tariffs in that post on Truth Social. Look, tariffs have been really critical for the president to lure companies into, number one, investing in the United States, but also in terms of bringing their supply chains here. The U.S. credit rating currently stands at AA+ from both Fitch and S&P. Moody's has it at AA1 because the national debt is over $38.7 trillion with a deficit of close to $670 billion. But the president's revenue from tariffs have actually enabled him to reduce the deficit by 78%, John. This is so critical as we await the Supreme Court decision on the president's use of tariffs in an emergency. Would you classify this, in terms of these critical minerals and the need for this, an emergency?
What we're seeing, Maria, is that people understand that we have all of the things foundational in America for them to succeed. As investors, as companies, they know we have top labor, they know we have great innovators. But what President Trump's done is he's created this call to action to invest in America again, to build in America again, to innovate in America again. And that's a really unique moment in time. And we're inundated by it. And so what we want to do is make sure that we have that safety blanket. We have those things that are foundational for all these companies to succeed, because that means more great paying jobs here at home.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was referring to an emergency, because, I mean, these are, you know, non-military needs. But when you consider the fact that we had the refinement process in place, but then the business was sold to China. Jameson Greer was walking us through it the other day about how the U.S. was in the refining of mineral business years ago, and yet then the U.S. sold it to China. So how did we get here, John? How did we get to rely so much on adversaries for such important critical minerals?
Maria, I think for far too long, we embraced a cloud-based economy, right? We thought that so long as we controlled intellectual property and that we had capital markets, that other people could build things. And what President Trump's very clearly said is that we're going to reindustrialize America for the benefit of companies large and small across the country, for the benefit of America's workers, but also for our national economic security. That's why this is so foundational. And I know you mentioned a moment ago what this means for our allies. It allows us to be a stronger partner to our allies around the globe.
Yeah, and in terms of the Export-Import Bank, of course, the bank provides that initial loan. Are you expecting more donors to come in? Because I know that $2 billion was a donor. Where else does the money come from, John?
No, it's not a donor, and that's why this is really important to clarify for your viewers at home, Maria. The American taxpayer and everyone involved sees an economic benefit in being involved in this long-term structure, right? Nobody's a free rider. Nobody's giving of themselves. That was our concern, is we wanted to create something that was uniquely American. And in order to do so, we had to make it attractive for everyone to participate, for everyone to chip in. And so this is designed, Maria, to be scalable. That was what the president directed us to do,
right?
Because we have very ambitious economic plans, and his plan to reindustrialize America is real, and it's happening starting today.
I'm referring to the $2 billion in private sector funding, John,
Absolutely.
alongside with the $10 billion from the Export-Import Bank.
That's an investment. That's definitely not a grant. It's definitely not a donor.
And are you expecting more private sector funding?
As we scale it, absolutely. For now, I think we have what we need in this first iteration. But if needed, we're very actively speaking with others on what are other problems that this model can help solve as it pertains to supply chain security.
All right. We'll be watching, John. Great to have you this morning. Thanks so much.
Great to be here.
All right. John Jovanovic joining us, Export-Import Bank.